Do we allow kidnappings to go on when we can have recourse under the Constitution to the military coming in?
But you know, you have people who also may argue that, well, first and foremost, during the Boko Haram, I mean, we had state of emergency declared several times, and so the military could do what they were directed to do, given those rules. And then it was also a threat. They were to protect Nigeria, protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria, which is within their constitutional role, because Boko Haram operated in the Maghreb, they operated in between the Cameroon, Chad region, so that was also within their rights. But when it comes to within the country, what do we do with those questions about the excesses of the military?
Well, in any society where there is a breakdown of law and order, you don't look at the normalcy of fighting that emergency. You have to use extra force to quell it. The military, in doing what they are doing, might have, not deliberately, I would say, killed some people in an uprising, which is what they said happened in Kaduna. But that does not mean that the country's security should be allowed to get to a stage where you and I you cannot travel to your home state without fear of being kidnapped. You are a popular figure in Nigeria now, Timberlake. If you are going to your Imo state, or which state are you from, you will be afraid of kidnappers. You have to look for a policeman to be your guard. And even if they see that policeman, they say, oh, you are a big man. They will just pounce on you. So this situation must be stopped. If we have somebody who is using methods to stop what we regard as criminal acts, why are we complaining?
Should they?
The other argument is, why use the military when you can expand the capacity of the police? As in, restructure the Constitution to give them state policing. That way, you can ensure you have more policemen on ground within the states to stem this crime.
To amend the Constitution to give
room for state policing.
State police. You see, for the past 50 years of Nigerian independence, that question has always come up at every constitutional conference. The forerunner of that champion for state police was Obafemi Awolowo. During the colonial times, we had what we call native authority policemen. And they were good and, maintained. But since independence, Nigeria has been under one unified police command. And if you have a state police, the fear of politics creeping into the police in that state to kowtow to the whims and caprices of the governor of that state will arise. So it has its good side. It also has its bad side. It can be misused by a governor.
But if the laws are there, where you have the federal, the states, even the local government, all having their jurisdiction, should we be worried about having them?
Nobody should be worried in having policemen surrounding the streets and doing it. Nobody should be worried. It's the political consequences arising from having them independent of his unitary command. When now the Inspector General of Police cannot give directive to the Chief Constable of the State Police. In England, you have chief constables in virtually every borough. London Metropolitan, they have that head of police. They are independent, but they still have one structure, one unitary structure. And it's a paramilitary. Police is not a military, but it's paramilitary. They carry arms and guns. They must be disciplined, and the discipline must come from the top.
Because part of why that also came up was because he decried the scenario wherein the state governor in Enugu State he had the security meeting, he had briefed, he had instructed that certain things be done, but it wasn't done.
That is the lapse of the Commissioner of Police. It is not something that you can blame on the military or blame on anybody.
Now this is part of the attempts to emasculate the police.
To emasculate the police?
To the extent that
I don't
keep calling on to the military to come and do those functions.
No. If a policeman, the Commissioner of Police, did not exercise good judgment after receiving security report. You see what happened to him? He was immediately removed and transferred out. So this is an individual act that should not be leveled against the society which he represents.
Should the military also be involved in policing polling booths?
Let me put it this way. It is wrong. It is not part of their duty as envisaged in the Constitution. But between you and I, your reporters were, during the Rivers, there were shootings. I could see your reporter hiding from bullet, At that stage, is it not wise to bring in the military? Because you have to look at situations as they arise. Military normally should not be seen in the streets. They must be in the barracks. In all civilized countries, you will not see a military officer wearing uniform on the streets of London or in Germany or anywhere. But in Nigeria, you just see it here. But normally, the barracks is their home. They should be kept in the barracks except for emergency. If there is a riot, killings like happened in Bayelsa, that happened in Rivers State, definitely no government will allow such a situation. And if the police are incapable, which it's been shown they're incapable of holding, then you can bring in the army to quell that particular insurrection.
Then how can we make the police capable then?
The police will be capable in two ways. Our police in Nigeria is one of the best trained police you can find in the world. They have the best training. The problem, the societal problem is there, corruption, which beclouds any judgment any policeman wants to do. But if you add more personnel to the police and you equip them and you pay them well, then maybe the corruption, which is endemic in the police system like any other system, might be eroded. And then we can see a true Nigerian policeman acting as a true policeman.
Mr. Clarke, why is it difficult for successive governments over the years to look in that direction? You just touched on an aspect that even our reporters have carried out their own research on. You said pay them well. If we pay them well, it would amaze you that even a commissioner of police doesn't even earn that much.
The average Nigerian worker. Have you been to Ghana of late? You have not been to Ghana. When you walk in the streets of Accra, you will feel safe. Internally yourself as you are walking, you will feel safe. The reaction of the average Ghanaian is very welcoming. There is no fear. You are walking in Jankara market now, all your two hands are in your pocket. Let me give you I went to London through Cairo, and we were to change planes in Cairo airport. The plane was to drop us in Nigeria and go to Ghana. So they said all hand luggages must be surrendered to be put in. There was this Ghanaian boy. His handover bag, he had a photographic something, all these things. He put them in. A Nigerian boy told him that, they will steal all these things. He said, I'm not going to Nigeria, I'm going to Ghana. Nothing will happen to it. In my presence. He said, nothing will happen to it. If you do that, the man unloading your baggage in Muritala Airport will be the first. If you put foreign currency in your baggage, yeah, they have, I don't know whether they have this juju. They will know there's money in there. They will rip it off.
But I think they say now that a lot has changed and that it's not as it used to be at that time. So
Okay.
people have given
What has changed?
testimonies here and there.
Lots have changed, but you see the revelations we've been receiving now. It's getting worse.
But
The effrontery.
How would
Sorry,
you...
Jabule, I don't want us to lose the track of the police matter because
Yeah.
it's something that we all must be concerned about. How can the nation help the police? Because we need a professional force.
The police is a reflection of the society you are in. Just as this, leadership of a country is a reflection of what the society is. You cannot isolate the police. If you sack all the policemen today or transfer them to customs and bring customs to hand a police job, the corruption will still be there. So the problem is to get rid of this corrupt attitude, enrichment. If they are paid well, in Ghana is the way. Do you know in Ghana, the petrol price is almost double that price in Nigeria. And they willingly pay because the workers are paid well. It's not this 18 naira minimum, 1,000 naira minimum wage that even state governments cannot pay. When even a palm sec will sit down, go to lunch, he will spend that money in one dinner with a friend.
So let's wrap up with this, because many also wonder, in terms of when the military come in, whichever scenario, subjecting themselves to police authorities always comes to question. If certain things are done and they're not right, do they subject themselves, or shouldn't they subject themselves to police if they investigate and find out that was wrongly done?
Look, under military rule, a soldier owes his loyalty to his superior officers. That is the last order. And it is to that superior officer he is accountable to. When military is deployed to a state under the control of a commissioner of police, they do not take instructions from the commissioner of police. But if in the course of doing the job they have been asked to do, they arrest criminals, then it is incumbent on them to hand over those criminals to the police, because they don't have the power to arrest and to, charge any culprit. At that stage, they will hand over to the police. But outside that, in the operational field in which specifically they've been asked to come and do, they report directly to their superior officers.
In the case of the Niger Delta scenario, who do they report to?
Well, I am not seized of the facts of who to report to in that, but once it's a military operation, as I said, they have to report to their superior officers because they obey the last order. And the last order is not from the commissioner of police, but is from their superior officer. And they have been trained to, obey the last order.
Well, Chief Robert Clarke, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you for coming on this morning.
It's always my pleasure.
And it's always a pleasure to have you on as well. We'll be back in a minute.